And this is it, folks. The time that we are going to go and cap this off with the grand finale. And with this finale, I need to go and discuss about a Twitter thread that really did captivate me. I feel like this Twitter thread discusses about something that's been happening with the cartoon community and with the entire animation community as a whole, that honestly, it really does need to be discussed more. I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about more often because I feel like this is becoming more and more of an issue with the community, down to the point where it's really increasing the toxicity over there, and it's making it a lot less fun to talk about animation on social media. And this Twitter thread that I am talking about is specifically coming from the user LoudTune99. And LoudTune99 decided to go and make this massive thread in relation to this one tweet that he has found, in which the user would go and joke about how Universal with Illumination and DreamWorks has become the new animation kings and have dethroned Disney by stating the new animation supremes, by pointing out the bad guys, the upcoming Super Mario movie, Minions: The Rise of Gru, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, while saying that Disney and Pixar are bones. And this is the thread that LoudTune had to go and say. And so, Tune stated, I want to call out these kinds of tweets right now. It's not wrong to prefer other animation studios, that goes without saying. But tweets like these feel like an attempt to create something along the lines of a console war, only with animation studios instead of games. Now, trust me, I do also love the bad guys, and especially Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, as much as anyone else, alongside being very excited for the Super Mario Brothers movie, but this is just crossing into toxic positivity. No other way around it, to be honest. I don't really think the people at DreamWorks or Illumination would want people to bring down others' work to prop up theirs. That goes the same for Disney and Pixar, regardless of how you feel about their output as of late. I am aware that it is nice to see other studios than the ones under Disney get attention, and I am all to see other studios getting massive praise and successes. Nobody should take that away. But regardless, all animation studios, as long as they love what they do, are equally valid. Now, before anyone says anything, no, I am not some Disney and Pixar fanboy that's salty about others getting praise over films like Turning Red. I just think this mindset of, this studio is objectively better than Disney because they have more of what I want, isn't healthy. Plus, even at that, reminder, Disney and Pixar are not the only ones that can end up putting out work that aren't favorable by critics or audiences. I mean, wasn't Illumination criticized for playing it too safe before Mario came along? And especially with DreamWorks, the year before, they put out Spirit Untamed and The Boss Baby Family Business, two works that got mixed reviews overall. And not to mention this year, they're going to make a third Trolls film. Last I checked, that franchise had mixed reviews. And with Disney and Pixar, I do understand that they've put out some works that weren't favored by people, like Lightyear and Strange World. But even then, that doesn't mean they can't do anything that people will come out liking anymore. I mean, if Elemental and Wish end up becoming favored as film like the Super Mario Brothers movie, Nimona, and Across the Spider-Verse, what would you say then besides the off chance of calling them flukes? All this to say is that any animation studio is equally capable of turning out films that are either liked or disliked. No studio should be treated as better or lesser than others because one happens to have more flavorful outputs either in a year or for a few years. And to top it all off, it should be pointed out that all animation studios handle their films differently, rather than better or worse. And regardless of what they turn out, it's better to appreciate studios for what they excel at. Walt Disney Animation Studios is great because they create timeless stories and have so much historical significance to animation. Pixar is great for creating stories that hit the right emotions with simple concepts. DreamWorks is great for creating great stories from a variety of genres and animation styles. Even Illumination, even before Mario, is great for creating films that are fun, vibrant, and even creative. Why do we need to say that one has to be better, has to be the animation supreme? Really, I do agree that more animation studios beyond Disney and Pixar should get recognition and deserve the praise whenever they create something amazing. That said, don't turn the animation community to the same standards as gaming communities. Really, do you want animation discussions to devolve into Nintendo versus Sega or Sony versus Microsoft? Because if this attitude persists, it might as well. And I don't think anybody would want that. All animation studios that love their work and puts out films people enjoy are valid. Like, hot dang, dude, like we're literally just starting 2023. And this lad over here is just walking by with honestly one of the best threads of the year. Like, it's gonna be very hard to go and top this one off. And to be very honest, I just want to go and have a moment to have a discussion because it brings up a very good point about a current toxicity that is brewing within the cartoon community. Now, I know there's been a lot of problems with the cartoon community, but I feel like this one is especially prominent nowadays. The way that they want to treat animation studios like console wars, you know, that they really want to go into tribalism and treat it like it's some kind of sports match going on, that they want to root for one animation studio over the other. And that's where we end up like with these heavy biases and like all these heavy attacks that are going on within the studio. And this doesn't just limit to like people using their love for DreamWorks Animation or for Illumination right now to go and attack Disney. Like, this seems to be happening very frequently. And the problem, I feel like the big problem is that it really stems from how the current position of the internet is. That we live in such an outrageously reactionary culture that people are really focused onto what's happening right now and only right now. That really, because of how social media works and how people are craving for things to be like instantaneous, that they want to have results right now, it causes people to go and act before they would go and think. And that the stuff they would say would turn out to be more likely stupid than actually something that would actually be thoughtful. And that's why nowadays we are just seeing these attacks again and again, because people are just speaking out of instinct instead of actually speaking about how they would feel or thinking about if what they would say actually does make sense or if it doesn't make them look like a complete idiot. And we're seeing this again and again and again. And I feel like, honestly, the worst example of this, the one time that really brings out the worst of the cartoon community, has to be award season. And what we went through with the Golden Globes is actually a very good example of it. Now, for the most part, a lot of people are very happy to see that Pinocchio did win Best Animated Feature, and that they love to see that Guillermo del Toro stated on national television and said to the world that animation is cinema. Like, a lot of people like that. But then there are still those toxic individuals that they would use that Pinocchio win to go and attack others, or that they would get so mad that their pick would not win. Like, one crazy thing that actually did happen was that there are some fans, not all, but some fans of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish got so upset that the movie did not win Best Animated Feature, and that they end up resorting to attack Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. They would go and attack the movie, they would attack Netflix, they would attack Guillermo del Toro. They would just go and completely unleash their rage because the Golden Globes did not go and cater to their bias. Or there are some people who would use that opportunity to go and attack others like Disney. Like, there was one pretentious comment that I saw on Twitter where someone said, like, well, I'm a bit disappointed that Puss in Boots didn't win, but hey, I'm happy that Pinocchio win because that means Disney didn't win. So are you actually happy that Pinocchio won, or are you just happy that Disney didn't win? Because it just makes you sound like a completely cynical douchebag right there. And like we keep seeing this happen on, and it's just people, it really just feels like there are just people out there who are so desperate to go and try to like be so destructive, be so cynical, and like be so toxic just for the purpose of feeling like their opinion is validated. And by the way, but let me just go and mention this right now, because I know eventually there might be some people who would go and try to comment this, like they would try to go and like devalue anything that I would say at this point, and they would just go and say, you're the one to talk, you're being a hypocrite to call those people out because you're the Sony hater. You have all those years of where you're just bashing Sony because you hate all those movies. You shouldn't speak about this because you're the Sony hater. Oh, really? You want to play that game, huh? You want to mention Sony Animation? Okay, that's very interesting. That's very curious that you would go and bring that up, because even though I'll just say now, it's honestly been years since I retired that old shtick right there. But it's interesting how very recently the cartoon community used that same kind of rage to attack Sony Animation. And this actually happened like not even like a few weeks ago, like very, very recently. Now, if you don't believe me, allow me to bring you an interesting example. Now, recently, Sony Animation has revealed that in the future this year, they're going to release on Netflix a 2D experimental adult animated series called Agent Elvis, which will be about Elvis if he actually was a secret agent for the FBI. Now, that sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? But the problem is, though, is that when that was announced, people were just upset. People got mad and they were attacking Agent Elvis. They were attacking Sony Animation. Like, they were angry at that announcement because at that point, people were just so upset of the cancellation of Inside Job that they just want to go and unleash their anger somewhere. And they decided to let out all their outrage towards Agent Elvis, where there are some people who even accuse Sony Animation and accuse the show because the existence of that somehow led to the cancellation of Inside Job. Now, before anything, I know there are going to be some people who will say, well, we weren't mad at Sony Animation for that. We were mad at Netflix for canceling Inside Job, and then instead they would go and greenlight Agent Elvis. Oh, really? I mean, if that's the case, then either way, you sound like a complete idiot. You sound like someone who has no idea what they're talking about, because I can guarantee you, Agent Elvis has nothing to do with the cancellation of Inside Job. And the fact that you would go after Agent Elvis in the first place makes you sound like a complete idiot. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's no, at this point, no one is safe from the rage of the internet, from the rage of like the cartoon community and stuff like that. Even though Sony Animation has like a great reputation right now, thanks to their recent films like Spider-Verse and Mitchell's vs. the Machines and stuff like that, like that doesn't mean that it would make them safe from the outrage of the internet. Like whenever they would get angry, they would blast at anyone. And honestly, Loudtune actually does bring up a very good point that later this year, you never know how things are going to be. And I can guarantee you right now, November is going to be a very interesting time, because as much as people right now are trying to say that DreamWorks Animation is better than Disney because I like the Bad Guys and Puss in Boots more than Lightyear and Strange World. As much as they would go and do that, November, chances are they're going to say something a little bit different. Because both Disney Animation and DreamWorks are going to be releasing movies during that time. DreamWorks will be putting out Trolls 3, while Disney Animation is going to go and put out Wish. Now, with Trolls 3, we know how the Troll movies are nowadays. And I mean, unless they pull off something completely different, reboot the franchise like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I cannot really imagine that there's going to be a whole lot of animation fans who are going to be really excited to go and check out Trolls 3. I mean, like, I'm not a huge fan of the Trolls franchise. I find the second one to be okay, but like, honestly, I cannot really imagine that Trolls 3 is going to get the same praise from the cartoon community as much as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And then you do have Disney's Wish. Now that one, even though we don't necessarily have a whole lot of information right now, but based on the reactions of the sneak peek that was given at the D23 Expo, it's gonna be something really special. And some people are already saying that it's already on the right path to become like the next Frozen or the next Encanto. Like, it's going to be the next big Disney hit. Not to mention that it will be incorporating that same kind of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish or Spider-Verse style animation where it's going to be like a living watercolor painting. So there might be that chance that the opinion is going to flip where suddenly people are going to completely forget about what happened in the past, and they're going to be praising Disney and just bashing DreamWorks and stuff like that. And that's one thing I got to say that it is completely toxic, no matter what the context is going to be, is when people use their love for one movie to go and attack another. That they would go and use something like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and that they would use it to go and take down other films such as Strange World or Lightyear. And that's where the toxic positivity of what Loudtune was talking about. And honestly, I feel like that is just something that is massively disrespectful, especially to the movie that you actually do like. It really does sound like you don't really care about the movie that you do like, and you're just more fixed onto something that you hate, because it's going to be a guarantee that your negative emotions will come out much stronger than your positive emotions. And really, it's just going to be massively disrespectful, and it really sounds like you don't actually do care about the movie that you do like. And this has honestly been something that's been going on for years. And honestly, I just need to point out what is possibly the worst example of that. And this was actually something that happened a few years ago that honestly, it made me worried about this fan base in particular. Thankfully, they avoided it, but my God, was this a massive and nasty example that the cartoon community needs to own up that what they did there was wrong. And this was actually back a few years ago during the award season in 2019. This was back when the hottest animated film at the time was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was when Spider-Verse was just sweeping away all the awards at the Annies, the Critics' Choice Awards, the Golden Globes, the Oscars, and all that kind of stuff. It is the go-to Best Animated Feature winner. However, the Spider-Verse fans, they felt that same kind of toxic competitiveness during award season. And they would actually go and use that in order to attack Disney and Pixar, because they felt that Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet were inferior products to Spider-Verse. Like, regardless of how they feel like how those projects were on their own, because they're not in the same standard as Spider-Verse, people use that as an excuse to go and attack those movies because they felt like they were inferior and that they did not meet their high standard. There was even at one point on Twitter when Pixar was just minding their own business and they were just doing their job of promoting Incredibles 2 to be in consideration for Best Animated Feature. And then you would get all these Spider-Verse fans continuously spamming and harassing that Pixar account with nothing but Spider-Verse gifts to like completely drown them in just these Spider-Verse gifts to undermine Incredibles 2. And I mean, that Pixar account did nothing wrong. They're just doing their job to promote their own film. But you need to go and admit that this was massively toxic and not to mention highly disrespectful. And I'm not saying that it is disrespectful to Pixar or to Incredibles 2, but it is massively disrespectful to Spider-Verse. Because again, it felt like people did not actually care much about Spider-Verse and just want to use that as a tool to go and attack Incredibles 2 because it did not meet their masterpiece level standard. that they kept on harassing the accounts again and again and again to say that, no, Spider-Verse is the better movie. You shut up. That's going to be the winner. If you like Incredibles 2 more than Spider-Verse, then you can go fuck yourself. You know, that's the thing that they would keep on going and trying to say. And that's the thing that made me honestly a bit worried if Spider-Verse would become like toxic, that the Spider-Verse fans would develop like a bit of that toxic mentality. Now, thankfully, it did not. But you have to admit, looking back at that time, that, like, there's no other way of saying it. That was shitty behavior. That was full-on toxic and shitty kind of behavior. Like, no one should be doing that. Like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, again, you really did not, like, it really sounded like you did not care about Spider-Verse and you just want to use that as a tool to go and attack Incredibles 2. Like, if you, like, at that time, you have to pick one of two emotions. Either you love Spider-Verse or that you hate Ralph Breaks the Internet and Incredibles 2. You cannot go and do both, okay? Like, and it's something that I feel like even back then, like, I called it out, but people try to brush it off as like innocent behavior, but no, like, this really was like enforcing toxic positivity. It really was that bad. So, and overall, this is a behavior that honestly nowadays we need to go and call out, especially when this does not reflect what animation is. Because believe it or not, behind the scenes, like the animation industry is like one big family. And you would be surprised that people from other studios, they would come and actually help out others with what they would do. Like there really isn't any competitiveness happening whatsoever. Like you would have people at Sony come in to go and help out the people at DreamWorks with whatever projects they would do. Or you would have the people at Disney where they would go to Netflix and they would help them out to do what they would do. You know, they're more like they actually do feel more like a unified family in there. It's just among the fan base, among fandoms, and among the community online where you see like this you know, you feel like not necessarily narcissistic, but you got like you got like all these like entitlements like just clashing one another, and people desperately trying to say like my movie is better than your movie and all that kind of stuff. You know, it really is just like this desperate battle of entitlement that honestly I feel like it needs to go and be called out. And I just want to go and like conclude this statement by saying that there is a reason why you see all these people doing this, like why you would go and see people trying to go and make like these wars happen, like trying to go and make this battle of DreamWorks versus Disney, or like people really getting emotionally engaged and stuff like that. You know why people would want to go and try to make these like big wars with animated films or like with these animation studios? Is because those people, they are highly insecure. These are the kinds of people in which they cannot really trust themselves with having their own opinion, because these people are too scared that if they would go and express their opinion about something that they like or that they don't like, that they would end up becoming the clown of the day on social media, and that they would all be completely rejected, and that they would face humiliation and stuff like that. So what they would do is that they would just go and blindly follow the crowd, or they would go and try to find validation through influencers, through people like me or Saberspark or Alpha J or Shafrillas. Like, look at those people for like whatever opinion they would say and just repeat what they would have. Like, they don't need to go and like develop their own opinions based on their experience. They would just go and watch them just to go and like collect what they would say and just apply it as their thoughts. Like, these are people who are desperate for validation. These are people who are desperate to have a need of belonging. And then from there, if they would go and meet someone who interferes with their status quo, if they would say something that's not among the popular opinion, then they would try to do everything they can to undermine that opinion so that theirs can be valid, because they cannot stand the idea that there are others that might not agree with you, that you do not have the right opinion. So that's why you see all these people, and especially with the addition of how reactionary social media has become, and it pretty much pressures people to go and act before they would think. That's when they would go and like be out, get like so much outrage and like get their anger out and just like do everything they can in order to silence that different opinion so that they would be the one who remains right and that they don't have to hear any other opinion that might differ from theirs. And it's all about masking their insecurities. And I've seen this all the time on the internet. I mean, you've probably seen this all the time on the internet where you got like these anti-woke people who just blindly listen to whatever like the far right influencers would say, and that they would desperately try to go and take down any opinion that is not theirs, because they would try to go and mask the fact that they don't have any opinions of their own, or that they're just desperate to have some place where they would belong. And it's the same thing in fandoms, including the cartoon community, that these are insecure people who cannot trust with having their own opinions, and that they would just go and attack others who may have a different opinion, or that they want to join the crowd by taking extreme actions. That, oh, well, if people love Puss in Boots, that means we must go and hate Disney now. Like, regardless of how I feel about Turning Red, I'm gonna go and hate them because everyone else says that Lightyear and Strange World suck, so I'm gonna go and join them too. And that's really the big thing. It really is nothing more but a mask for their insecurities. But I mean, it's easy to spot nowadays. And I feel like with that kind of outrage, that mask just suddenly slips. And by that point, if you're really that insecure to the point where you cannot really form your own opinions, then are you really someone worth listening to? Like, are your own opinions really that valid in the first place? I just need to go and ask. All right, now we will be right back. We're just gonna go and take a quick break because the ads are going to appear soon. But when we do get back into this, I will go into the chat wall and I want to ask what you all think about this. So let's just have a break, and you can have your thoughts about what you want to say about this entire matter. And we are back. So now let's see what the chat wall has to say. And some of you actually do have a comment that you would like to go and express. So let's go and check it out here. So let's see now. Loud2 made a really great thread over the problems within the toxicity of the animation community. Right now, the environment is just a mess of how people say that DreamWorks is better than Disney or Spider-Verse is superior to Incredibles 2. It's just so toxic and disrespectful to many movies, studios, and people. Seriously. The toxic positivity needs to be called out, because at this point, it's just like it's just liking only one thing and nothing else. We need to treat others as equal and not as foes. All right. Now let's see what else This thread is perfect, though I will disagree with him saying that it's toxic positivity, where it's very much just plain old negativity. The cartoon community has a lot of issues, especially with how often they want to use studios to beat Disney, either for the little guys or something woke culture, instead of actually having a conversation. The animation community is extremely entitled. I can bet that it would be a nightmare to work with in the animation industry if they would ever get in. Yeah, and again, I want to go and emphasize, this is something that Loud2 has mentioned, that it's perfectly okay to have your opinion in terms of which studio do you like best. Like, it's fine to say that you like Illumination, or that you like DreamWorks, or that you like Disney, or that you like Pixar. Like, if you have a favorite among those, or even like some of the others, like Blue Sky, or Sony, or Paramount, or whatever. If you have a personal favorite, that's perfectly okay. But having that kind of opinion does not give you the right to go and be entitled and try to try to go and exercise your superiority over others. Like, there's no winning situation when you're really trying to use it as a means to say that you're better than others, because really you're not. Let's see what else we got here. I hate when movies are used as hurdles to attack other studios. You raise an excellent point. Sure, 2022 may have been a great year for DreamWorks, but this year Disney will be bringing their A game with Elemental and Wish, while DreamWorks will be crapping out Trolls 3, and the shoe will be on the other foot. The madness needs to end. Lastly, I may be in the minority, but I actually prefer the beautiful work of lesbian romance fiction that is Incredibles 2 over Spider-Verse. And I mean, you know what? That's perfectly fair. And honestly, yeah, I know I got some controversial opinions. I know that, like, I think Incredibles 2 might be slightly better than Spider-Verse and stuff like that. I know I got my controversial opinions, but I mean, those are my opinions and I'm perfectly okay with it. I mean, say what you will about stuff like, oh, I don't, like, of the fact that I know there are a lot of people out there who want to say, like, oh, well, for AniMat, Hotel Transylvania, Cloudy with Enchanted Meatballs are movies that everyone else likes except for him. Like, you could call it whatever you want, but those are just my opinions. Like, honestly, I don't care if, like, everyone else loves them except for me. It's just honestly how I feel when I watch those movies. Like, really, if you want to go and try to undermine it by saying, like, well, everyone else likes it, everyone else calls it a masterpiece except for you, well, really, like, are you, like, is the problem the fact that you're uncomfortable with the fact that my opinion is different than yours? Like, I know, like, those old reviews that I've done, like, I know they're absolute cringe, and, like, I was totally wrong for attacking the animators. I know I shouldn't have done that, but, like, honestly, I just need to go and ask. If you have a problem with the fact alone that I said that those movies are bad, then the problem is more you than my opinion. I just need to go and say that. Let's see now. That was a strong thread I read, and I would agree with what Loud299 has made. I really think we should all appreciate all animated films and getting the type of attention they need, but there is no need to attack one another, especially during awards season, which is unfortunate as they saw it as a sports competition than a celebration altogether. I love Pinocchio, Marcel, Puss in Boots, and Turning Red getting nominated as they show the best in their own right, and the toxic attacks have to stop. Exactly, man. Like, regardless of whoever wins, like, you can have your personal favorite. Like, it's fine if your favorite movie doesn't end up becoming the winner. That's not like an attack on your personal opinion or whatever. Like, whatever opinion you may have, that's fine. Like, maybe you do prefer Turning Red. Maybe you do prefer Puss in Boots. Maybe you do prefer Marcel. But the thing is, if you feel like you need to have a need to go and attack the Golden Globes or the Oscars because they didn't pick your winner, or like they didn't pick your favorite as the winner, then honestly, that just shows that you only have insecurity issues and that you yourself cannot trust with having an opinion because you cannot stand the idea that there are others that may have different opinions than you, especially when it comes to animated films. Or, oh my God, even with animated films, my God, I don't even want to know, like, when it comes to more serious subject matter at that point. Let's see. Oh yeah, now this is one hell of a thread. I'm honestly sick and tired of the very idea of praising something while slamming another thing down because it just feels so unneeded, toxic, and downright mean. We all need to acknowledge that every animation studio has their ups and downs, as well as being able to accept opinions and thoughts that are different than yours. Because if you only focus on the love of one studio, your opinion and thoughts become rigid and stale. Exactly, man. And also, there's another thing that I do need to go and bring up. There's one thing I gotta say that honestly, with this kind of like outrage culture and people really going out of their way, like, to enforce their opinions and stuff and like be bombastic about it, it makes me feel tired. Like recently, you may have noticed, like, on social media, I've been pretty quiet. Now, part of it was because during the weekend, I was out on a film shoot because, like, I actually had an acting gig that I got to do. But another reason was because, honestly, it feels very demotivating to engage in the conversation with the animation community or with fandoms in general, because nowadays the only thing people are doing right now is complain about Velma. That's all they're doing. They're bitching about Velma. They're complaining about everything that's been going on in the show, and it just feels like a very toxic, negative, and just depressing place. Like, I know there are some other, like, not everyone is talking about Velma, but I mean, if you don't like the show, then wouldn't you rather want to spend time talking about something that you do enjoy? Like, I'm just saying, like, honestly, I don't really care about the Velma show, but I'm not going to spend my entire time just hate watching the series and then complain about it on social media or whatever. Honestly, it just feels very tiring. Like, I don't want to engage on something that people, like, just want to hate. Like, come on, guys. Like, if you don't like it, well, then you don't like it. Move on to something better. Move on to something positive. Like, don't you have any, like, isn't there something that you want to talk about that you do enjoy? I mean, seriously, I just feel like the current situation with the cartoon community has really gone out of hand. Like, it really is depressing to see, like, where it is right now, where they can only speak in outrage. All right, I think I'm gonna read one more comment and then we'll cap this off right over here. Let's see. Loudtune99 has made a really good point here. All animation studios should be treated as equally as one another, whether it be Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Sony, Illumination, you name it. I don't want to end up like those dumb console wars, because that's only disrespectful and toxic. So can the cartoon community shut up for once? Oh, how I wish that they could shut up. Trust me, the day that they would shut up is a very blessed day.